sector, traveler. Are you hearing that? No, not my voice. The other thing. That persistent, high-frequency whine cutting through the low clouds tonight. It is the corporate telemetry grid bouncing off the carbon-plated skyscrapers in Sector 4. It never really stops, does it? Every billboard flashing its neon pink promise right through your eyelids. Every synthetic delivery drone humming its way past your window frame at 3 in the morning. It gets heavy. The data density in the air. It just clusters around the base of the skull. That is precisely why the engineers at Meridian Core developed this little piece of hardware right here. This is the Aegis 7. It is a subdermal neural dampener chip. It doesn't require a full chassis modification or a sterile clinic visit. No, it is just a simple, over-the-counter local patch. Tiny, flexible silver filament that sits just behind your left earlobe, resting softly against the mastoid bone. When you switch it on, it doesn't blast white noise. It doesn't fight the city. Instead, it acts like a sponge for the ambient electronic pollution. It takes the screech of the mag train rails 3 levels up and translates it into a low, oceanic murmur. The flickering orange neon from the noodle shop downstairs. The Aegis 7 intercepts that visual frequency before it hits your optic nerve and softens the edges, turning a harsh strobe into a gentle, fading amber glow. I remember the first time I calibrated one of these for a customer, a heavy machinery welder from the lower docks. He came in with his shoulders up to his ears, his eyes completely bloodshot from 30 straight hours of automated subgrid alerts. We placed the Aegis 7 right against his skin. We dialed the frequency down, right past the corporate bandwidth. And for the first time in 10 years, he just stopped pacing. He said the silence felt like cool, clean water pouring over a hot engine block. It has 3 baseline settings. Muted city allows you to hear the rain on the reinforced glass, but strips away the artificial advertisements. Then there is a deep sector baseline, which reduces everything to a heavy industrial heartbeat. And finally, the void. And that one's my personal favorite for the late night shifts. It creates a complete sensory buffer zone. Imagine walking through a crowded market square, thousands of citizens talking, synthetic rain pouring, sirens blaring, and hearing absolutely nothing but the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. The battery life on the silver filament lasts for exactly 8 hours of deep sleep cycle, just enough to get you through the harshest broadcasting hours of the early morning, When you wake up, it dissolves naturally into the bloodstream, leaving nothing behind but a slight taste of copper on the back of your tongue and a perfectly rested mind. No contracts, no subscription tiers, just 8 hours of artificial peace in a world that never learned how to shut its eyes. Let's talk about where we go when we dream, or rather, where we can go if we lease the right data slate. And this is the OmniVision's Deep Drift token. It is a small, unbranded piece of polycarbonate plastic, but inside is an isolated, closed-loop memory sequence. Most people spend their credits on high-velocity simulation streams, hoverbike racing through the upper-tier skyways, or digital neon glass, where the synthetic champagne never runs out. But those streams leave the nervous system twitching. They keep the adrenaline pumping through your synthetic valves all night long. The Deep Drift capsule is entirely different. It is a slow burn archive. You slip into the lease pod at your local sector station. The synthetic leather inside the capsule is always slightly worn, smelling faintly of ozone and old cooling fluid. But once the canopy slides shut, the city completely vanishes. This specific sequence is called the Autumn Archive. It is a fully reconstructed sensory map of a northern deciduous forest, compiled from historical weather data before the atmosphere dried out. When the simulation initializes, the first thing you notice isn't the light. It is the temperature, a crisp, cool breeze that actually smells like damp soil and decomposing oak leaves, not the chemical pine scent they spray in the corporate plazas, but something deep, ancient, and slightly heavy. You find yourself sitting on a fallen log. The wood beneath your palms is rough, textured, covered in a soft layer of velvet moss that gives slightly under your weight. And then it begins to rain, but it isn't the acidic, yellow downpour that streaks the metal plating of our streets. This rain is clean. It hits the canopy of orange and red leaves above you with a soft, chaotic patter. 1,000 tiny, unique impacts, creating a blanket of white noise that smothers every frantic thought you brought down from the surface. There are no notifications in this space, no holographic tickers scrolling across the horizon. Just the gray, heavy sky and the smell of wet earth. Now, because this is an unbranded, lower tier lease, there's a slight structural glitch in the rendering loop. Every 4 minutes or so, the leaves in the distance might flicker for a fraction of a second, revealing the faint blue geometric grid underneath. But honestly, that makes it better. It reminds you that you are completely safe inside a reinforced steel box, while your mind gets to wander through an extinct paradise. The subscription warning is woven into the audio track very gently. A soft, chiming bell that repeats every hour to let you know your credits are ticking away smoothly. It doesn't jolt you awake. It just acts like a distant lighthouse, anchoring you to reality while you drift further into the damp foliage. By the third hour of the loop, the simulation dims the daylight naturally, guiding the archive into an endless, cool twilight, where the sound of the rain becomes heavier, slower, until the boundaries of the digital forest and your own consciousness blur into the exact same thing.